Welcome. Welcome.
Hi, you're looking awesome. I love your hair. So
Oh,
beautiful, so radiant.
thank you. So, hi. I'm just going to
Hello.
take you in for a second. It's good to see you, Leola Watkins. Wait, did you take a new last name?
I did. Yeah, that's a funny story. I did take his last name.
Did you? So, what is it now?
It is Watkins. That's his last name.
That's his last name.
Yeah, generally in my work, I kind of just go by Leola, which I like. It's a unique name. There's not any real need to differentiate. It's like Osho or Madonna or just like Leola. That's it. But to get verified on Instagram, you do have to put a last name and it has to match your government ID. So I am now Leola Watkins in full. But generally I just go by Leola.
Gosh. Okay. So, wait, how far along are you?
I am almost 8 months. I'll be 8 months in the
Wow.
same day. It's in a few days.
How does it feel to have a human inside of you?
Wow, how does it feel? I mean, how does it feel physically? How does it feel emotionally? There's so many layers to
All
it.
the things. Tell me all of
Um,
it.
I was just sitting and talking to my husband before this, and the baby completely just like shifted her position, and it's like it kind of just takes you out of nowhere because it's just she's big now. I mean, she's almost fully grown. Um, and so it just feels so weird and also cool at the same time, to feel her finding her body, inside of my body. And there's also right before this, I had my husband like put this like girdle thing on me. I've got this, I think it's called a belly band, but it's like an orthopedic like support that you put on your belly that helps just keep things like tight and held together because just sitting up for, I was just on another one-on-one client session and sitting up for too long, my back starts to hurt because it's just more weight that the body's not used to carrying. It's like you're wearing a weighted vest that's like 25 pounds 24/7. And I'm like on the medium to light end of the weight gain for where I'm at in my pregnancy. So that's a whole thing. Like the different ways that I get to interact with my body, to support it in this chapter. And then, yeah, emotionally, obviously, when she's moving, kicking, it's like, this is such a precious moment that's not gonna be forever. And how can I really just soak it in?
Mm.
Um, and honor that and spiritually as well. I've been waking up in the middle of the night, which is pretty common in third trimester because your hormones just start to get weird and it affects your cortisol levels. And so like I'll sleep like 3 hours and then wake up like fully awake. There's no chance that I'm gonna be able to go back to sleep. So it happened last night. And so I was up from like 2 till 5 and I got to just be in my spiritual practice and like think about my birth and go over some resources that my midwife sent me. And that was really sweet and special. Like, I feel like a lot of women really fall victim to their pregnancy. Like, they start to really struggle with the lack of sleep, the physical ramifications on the body. But I'm very fortunate that I'm in a place and in a season of my life where I'm like, great, like I get to have 3 hours in the middle of the night to myself to do practices, to bake a cake and like, I
You're
don't start
baking
work
a
till
cake?
11. So
You're
I was
baking a
able
cake in
to.
the middle of the night?
I did. Yeah. I was like, I was up for like 90 minutes and I was still wired. So I was like, I was going to make this today, this like healthy version of a like cake. And I was like, might as well just do it now because I'm going to be up
Well,
for another hour. I can tell. Um, so, but it's a very privileged place to be to be in a place where I have time freedom and I love what I do and financial freedom, and it's not like I'm able to really be in my pregnancy and be with the challenges and allow myself to find pleasure in it rather than be a victim to it. So,
I love it. And I
yeah.
wonder if the whole thing with being a victim to it is just part of the programming. Like we talked in our first episode about the programming of how we see our bodies, how we think of ourselves, how sex is so shameful and all these things. And so I'm thinking of like, oh, pregnancy, it's just programmed in our brain of how awful it is and all these terrible things that happen. And we're
Yes.
going into it with that preconceived notion. And then you get
Yeah,
to create the whole experience on your own and make it a beautiful thing instead of this dreadful thing, which is
yeah,
probably why I've avoided having kids.
I fully feel it's both because I was terrified of pregnancy and birth,
Mm,
for most of my life. And again, like, I'm not gonna pretend that there's not challenges, that it hasn't been hard. It for sure has, but I feel really equipped with the tools that I've learned living a tantric lifestyle to find the magic, find pleasure, find God and all of it, to see even things like I'm waking up in the middle of the night. Yeah, it's annoying, but guess what? I'm gonna have a newborn soon, and this is like training. Like, it's preparing me before that initiation. And at the same time, I also feel like we live in a world that is not set up to support women through this type of transition. A lot of women are working typical 9 to 5s. A lot of women don't have men or supportive partners that really know how to step up. And I'm very fortunate that I have kind of stepped out of that society soup nonsense and just created a life I love, which wasn't easy. It was risky, and I did it anyways, and it's definitely supporting this chapter. I've also been very, very fortunate to have lots of women around me that have come before me through the initiation of motherhood and shown a different way, shown a different perspective, and that's been instrumental as well.
do you feel, well, I'm feeling like the next chapter for you would be, and it would be so helpful to pave the path or wait, oh, now I've had a baby. This is how I did it. It was this beautiful and this epic and this whatever. Let me teach you what I did. So I could see you leading like a tantric birth thing or pregnancy or something like that. Do you feel that you would do that?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's really interesting because I've had a lot of initiations working with women going through this chapter in my work. One of my very first like female clients that came to me because she wanted to work on her sexual trauma, but she actually fell pregnant very shortly into our container. And so I was with her throughout her entire pregnancy and into her postpartum. And yes, we were focused on this relationship to her body, to her sensuality, to her sexuality. But what we don't think about is like birth and making a baby obviously is a deeply sexual experience. It's the same tools of sound, breath, and movement that we're using to really drop into the present moment, move energy, make love to life in tantric traditions are the same things that support you in moving through the birth portal and the challenges that come afterwards. And so as she was going through that, I was like, what are you reading about your birth? What are you reading about postpartum? And so I was just also consuming all of this information. And then I ended up doing a doula training a few years ago
Wow.
because to me, birth, sex, and death are like are my holy trinity. They're like the three big portals that we move through that's connected to life and life force.
Yeah.
And that for me was also a really big initiation. And then in my program, Pleasure Priestess, a lot of the women are moms or want to be moms. And we have a whole like thread called Priestess Mama in our WhatsApp chat. And I have many clients that have worked through this program through motherhood and seen how impactful it's been and how they relate to their families, their kids. Particularly one woman joined when she was 2 months postpartum, which is kind of crazy because like a lot of people in postpartum are like, I don't need more things to do. But that's the thing about my world and work is that it's not a thing to do. It's a thing that resources you and inspires you to show up more present in every area of your life. And so she had an incredible experience of coming back to her body, coming back to her sensuality and her sexuality after an experience that was seismic in how it changed her physiology, her relationship to her husband. It was also really sweet because I also got to meet her husband and hear him say like every woman needs to do this in their postpartum because it was life-changing for us. So I feel really curious to go through that Like, because I feel like I couldn't teach on that or do that necessarily until I had been through that initiation to focus specifically on being a tantra mama, but it is something that I'm curious about
I
as
would
I do.
trademark that name, Tantric Mama, if it or Tantra Mama, if it doesn't already exist. Claim that. Tantra Mama. It sounds so good.
Yeah,
Grab it.
yeah.
No, it's so interesting to just see and feel your energy and how much you've grown. Like it's almost like witnessing a cousin or someone that I haven't seen in years that I got to know pretty deeply just through a long conversation we had. Going back and listening, I was like, wow, we really touched on a lot of things. We shared different stories and different examples that deeply resonated. We really understood each other. And it got to a point where it was like, wow, that was like we've known each other for years. So it's now seeing you here and now and watching your journey and how you've evolved. Like you've birthed a book, you're about to birth a baby. The ideas and the things that you were creating, I feel like we're in the maybe like beginning to middle stages of birthing and prosperity and like financial freedom. Like you weren't there yet. And I feel like you have now gotten to a place where it's like you can look back at that version of you and go, oh, that was cute.
She has arrived. There have been moments. The first time I had this moment was about a year ago, specifically where I was like, I made it. Like I fully made it because there were many things that I wanted to experience and embody and accomplish before stepping into this season of motherhood and sharing this abundance, sharing this life with another that I create. And I did all those things. And then I fell pregnant and I was like, okay, and now like I really feel like I've made it. Not to say that like that younger version of me that did the podcast several years ago, it's like, God, she had so much wisdom and so much courage and so much medicine. But there is a lot of celebration in the journey that has happened, that's transpired since then, and the juicy things that have been harvested, like, at the same time, like, she didn't know, you know? Like, I don't remember exactly when we did the episode, but I think it was right around or right before I got together with my now husband, and to me, like, I learned so much that prepared me for that activating, like, sacred union relationship, but it like, to me, relationship is where so much of our lessons get, deeply cultivated and, like, ingrained and tested, and that's been super interesting as well to, yeah, just, like, really show up in that relationship and, um, use the tools and really walk the talk, so
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Walk the talk. And I say this because you and I have exchanged some messages about relationship and things that we were going through. And I have to report to you that walk the talk. I really feel like that relationship had to happen for me to actually practice all the things I preach in an environment that felt impossible to practice them in. I've had this idea to create a program or write a book or something and call it From Toxic to Tantric.
ooh, I love that, that's such a good name.
It is, right? After I realized, okay, you know what? I'm pointing the finger at him. I'm blaming him. He's the problem. And then I'm like, wait, no, I'm creating this. Let me shift me. Let me show up differently. Let me clean up my side of the street and just focus on me and not try to fix it and see what happens. And it was almost an immediate shift. That was the trick. That's the secret.
I resonate so deeply. These relationships with men that are charismatic and deeply powerful, but also are deeply wounded, you know, for whatever reason from society, from their upbringing, etc. These are the type of relationships that sharpen our swords as priestesses, and we get to claim that and own that and not be a victim to it, but instead let it forge us in the fire because yeah, walking through something similar that many people would look at from the outside and say, that's toxic, you need to leave, etc. But staying and turning over every stone and saying, I'm going to cultivate the shit out of this. Even if it means that I leave in the end, I'm going to really harvest it. I'm going to let this completely transform you from the inside out. And if it also transforms the relationship, awesome. And things and it did. And it sounds like it was similar for you, that it 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 also, you stepping into your full power, focusing on yourself, completely gave him a mirror to embody more of his divine essence as well. So celebrating you so deeply in that, because it's not easy. I think there's lots of programming and messaging out there right now about really blaming men and making them the problem. And yeah, like, they fucked up and they can do better, blah, blah, blah. But we're not owning our full power when we do that. We're really allowing ourselves just to be victims, and that's not hot.
That's interesting that you point that out. I've been noticing that there's these reels where they're just showing like, "Why are you still single?" And then it goes men today, and it's showing men that are having their women carry all of the things, or the woman is opening the door for the guy, or she's actually literally, I saw one where she's carrying him on her back, which I thought was crazy. But yeah, the way that they're highlighting and showing men as the problem. I've been noticing that too. It's really interesting.
Y You see
Go
these
ahead.
little clips, you see these little messaging pieces, but you have no idea what she's doing in the relationship to create that, or what you're doing in the relationship. Like, I've been the woman that's like, "I've got it, I'm hyper independent," like, and what type of relationship did that create for me? I wasn't treating myself like a queen, I was treating myself like the court that is carrying all of the weight, you know? And so it's like, how are you bringing your energy to the relationship, and what is that inspiring?
It's so true. It's so true. When you look at it from the perspective of what am I bringing? How am I creating this? You don't have to change another person to get the joy and the bliss and the results that you want in your life. What has evolved for you?
Yeah. I want to also acknowledge everyone comes into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And we don't always know what that's going to look like. I do think that there's lots of women that are running too soon and not harvesting everything, because if you don't harvest in this relationship, it's going to show up again in the next one as this pattern until you heal that, until you get that peace, that activation. And at the same time, I think that it is important that you have a partner that's committed, like super committed to doing the work, and is also taking radical responsibility and ownership, and is taking action to like co-create this with you. Like, it shouldn't all necessarily be on you. However, once you start to shift your shit, it tends to have that, impact on our partners as well. But to answer your question, there are so many layers. There were so many initiations. I think that the biggest piece that's coming to mind in this moment that wants to be heard, spoken, felt is this deep sense of self trust, and really stepping into my full feminine power, full feminine radiance, really integrating some of my shadow feminine behaviors and patterns. So to give a little context for the listeners, my husband is so incredible. He's sweet, he's charismatic, he's loving, he is a provider, but he's also deeply supportive of me and my work and my life journey. Um, and he has complex PTSD. He has been an addict for he first started recovery like 14 years ago, was sober for 14 years, relapsed in our relationship. Basically, as soon as we got together, I didn't even know it.
Wow.
Because it was one of those things where like you move to Austin and everyone's doing like plant medicine and MDMA ceremonies, and he had been sober for 14 years from alcohol and everything else. And you thought, oh, well, like alcohol was the problem, so I can do these other things, these MDMA
Mm.
whatever. Um, but in reality, that was massively altering his brain chemistry and creating a lot of disease in his system. It was a distraction from the trauma that he hadn't fully owned from his childhood, etc.
And who
And
perfect to hold him through all of that? Ta-da!
Yes, yes, we've talked about this a lot because he's the truth is that he wouldn't be healing this stuff if he wasn't in relationship with me. There have been so many moments where he's like, "You are so fucking challenging and annoying," and, about me, he said that about me because every other woman that he's been with was so easy and so go with the flow or whatever, I'm not an easy woman to be with. I'm not an easy one to date because I'm not gonna just let shit fly. I'm gonna call you forth and speak the truth. And that gift of mine has had to be sharpened so much because I want to be like, you've got it. I trust you, blah, blah, blah. And that's part of it. That's part of the relationship. But when I know that something is off deeply, I also get to name it, bring it, call it forth. I don't need to change it for him, but I do get to say, this is what I see is going on. And I can see that you're better than this with all the love in my heart, not as you have to change, but this is what I see possible. And don't you want that too? Because doesn't that sound juicy, yummy? It's like this seducing energy. So, anyways, he would not really be healing this stuff in this lifetime if he weren't with me, probably. And at the same time, it's also healed my own, or I guess, amplified my self-trust and my worthiness to feel into those moments where I know that something is not right, something is off, or there's an activation or an opportunity. I've been able to trust that knowing more and also be able to look at, well, where are my shadows in that as well? Where am I trying to control or mother or coach because I don't feel safe? And how can I cultivate my inner safety and separate that from his possible transformation, and stay on my side of the street, but also illuminate the vision of what's possible for him and for our relationship?
So powerful. So good. I feel like there's a few sound bites in there that could go insanely viral because it was like, yes. I want to just commend you on just holding space for that because that's not easy. Everything you just described and to be hit with that right away, it was like, wait, what? Whoa. And I can relate to something that you shared, not necessarily like addiction or anything crazy like that, but just understanding the reality of who someone is and what their current state of life is truly when you take the rose colored glasses off and you are coming down from the high of, oh my God, you're my dream man. It's like, wait, but maybe, hold on, what about this thing? What about this? You're like understanding more and peeling layers. And you're like, if I knew this, I may not have been on board for it. Like, but it didn't get revealed until after because you were meant to be on board for it. And if you knew before, then you probably wouldn't have. And this is the journey you were meant to be on. I feel so grateful to just understand and know and witness the journey that you have been on with him and that he's gotten to have you and to go and on this journey with for him to heal and for you all to grow and expand together. And I really believe that if you hadn't, then you also wouldn't be who you are right now in this moment and how you have gotten to where you have gotten to. Like all of that was an initiation. All of that was part of the process, part of becoming her, you, now, this in front of me.
Yeah, there are just so many layers to what this relationship has shaped in me, how the most challenging seasons have shaped my capacity to love deeper, to trust myself, to trust God more. I mean, I remember sitting in my bathtub and being like, what the fuck? I'm a priestess. I got the download that this is my person. The very first time I saw my husband, I heard a voice say, "That's the father of your children." And I was completely sober. There was nothing weird going on. And I remember hearing that and being like, "That's weird. Never heard that one before." And I remember in the most challenging moments of our relationship being like, "What the fuck, God? Like, why would you tell me that?" If this is where we're at, and it's crazy because now I'm pregnant, but at the moment I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to have kids with this man because of the instability that's happening right now in our lives. And in I remember sitting with that and being like, do I stay? Do I go? Do I what do I do here? And it was that commitment to, okay, I get to stick this out and harvest again. I made a commitment to this man, to myself, to God. I'm going to follow through even though I'm uncertain, even though I don't know. But again, there's something here for me in this moment to harvest. There's something that I can shift, something that I can practice. So let me start there and see what happens. And if it's not shifting, you know what? Maybe God planted that's your baby daddy in my mind because I needed to get this one piece to actually meet the guy that's meant to be my baby daddy. But at the end of the day, like, I got to sit with like the trusting the full arc, trusting the full vision, from the moment that I got that download to the moment where it felt like it was completely dissolved and I was in the deepest disillusionment of my life, to all of the little pieces that rebuilt the trust in myself, in him, and in God and in our relationship to get to a place where we're actually living that original vision of creating life together. So it's been a friggin' journey. My husband and I, we're going to record another podcast episode coming up soon to share more about what that has looked like, because I think that it's happening so much in relationships right now, because this is the generation where we're healing a lot of these dynamics. I mean, I think about my mom's been married 4 times. And pretty much every time, except for this most recent time, she has become whoever she thinks her man wants or needs. Totally abandoned herself,
Mm.
totally lost herself in relationship.
Shapeshifter.
Total shapeshifter, which is a shadow of the feminine. Yes, we have this gift of adaptability, but if we don't integrate that, we can find ourselves falling into this martyr, people pleaser, totally abandoning ourself, our feminine power. And it's not only is it a disservice to us, because then we're like, actually, I've become someone I don't even recognize. I need to leave this relationship to find myself again. But it's also a disservice to him because he's missing out on the magic and the medicine that you are meant to bring to the relationship, that is meant to shape, evolve, support him in his growth and in his evolution as well. So it's really powerful when we allow ourselves to like notice that, shift it, and even share it publicly, if it's in our contract or in our capacity, because yeah, I mean, this is something that, I mean, you think about like the history of womanhood and the feminine, for thousands of years we have been not just rewarded, but it's been required for our survival to become what the men in our lives want or need, just because if we weren't accepted, loved, fully like taken in by our man, then we could be left to die basically, because like women didn't have the ability to make money for themselves, didn't have the ability to own property, couldn't work, had kids, and were fully like, that's how it still is in many parts of the world today. So we're in this lifetime where we actually have the ability to reprogram, repattern this, step into our power, not just for ourselves, but also to like invite these men into their highest expression as well.
Beautifully said. Wow. You know what? That took me back to our first conversation. We had this thing about should I stay or should I go? Do you remember that? And you're like, oh, I love that title.
I don't remember, but it is full circle now.
It is full circle. Should I stay or should I go? I battled with that for so long because the thing is you hold on to potential. You see what something will be or what it was in the beginning or what you thought it was going to be or the version of them, as they say, that you fell in love with and you're trying to get that version of them back or something like that. But if you are in a position where you're like, should I stay or should I go? You're weighing the pros and you're weighing the cons and you're like, well, these things are so good. And when it's good, it's so good. And when it's bad, it's so bad. And should I stay or should I go? And being in that limbo, it drains your life force and then you're actually stuck and you feel like you can't move forward. And then you'll develop some sort of illness or something or a chronic condition. Like a couple of my clients had plantar fasciitis, chronic foot pain. So one woman who came to my retreat in Bali, she had plantar fasciitis in her foot. She wanted to heal from a trauma that she had, and it was around her husband's infidelity. And she was in that should I stay or should I go? So it was the left foot, the feminine side, and the one foot out the door, chronic foot pain. Ta-da!
So,
So resolving, she didn't even have to leave the marriage to resolve it. It was an inner thing that had to be resolved. And then suddenly her foot pain was gone. She got home and she messaged me, Rita, I lost 15 pounds. My foot pain is almost all gone. So that just goes to show how much we carry. And we also talked about shame in the last episode. And what's interesting is that has become such a massive thing in the work that I do. The weight that we carry in our physical body, when someone is trying to lose weight and they do everything right, they're like eating super healthy, they're working out, but nothing is working. I firmly believe they're carrying some shame that they need to let go of or transmute or alchemize. And then the weight just melts away and it weighs about 15 pounds. Shame weighs about 15 pounds. I had one woman who came to a fire circle I did here in Chicago, and she said out loud something she has never spoken out loud before, Leola. She was molested as a child and she carried the secret for 27 years, not a peep about it. And as soon as she said it, and she was witnessed in front of 8 women that are complete strangers to her, because healing begins when someone bears witness. I firmly believe that. And she just said it and cried her eyes out and was held, and we're around a fire. And she came back to the next one that I did 3 weeks later and said, I lost 15 pounds since the last circle. And she felt so alive, so radiant, so confident. And the veil was lifted. The marriage she's in, she's like, I can't fucking tolerate this. Like, what have I been accepting and dealing with and tolerating? Because of the shame she's carrying. This is what she's worthy of. This is what she deserves. So bringing that back to self worth and that
yeah,
journey.
yep. I love this, um, this Rita-ism, if you will. This Rita-ism, shame weighs 15 pounds for women at least. It just I like last week I was talking to a friend who recently went through a breakup. So she was in that should I stay, should I go? Also pretty much since the beginning of her relationship. I think that they were together for like 2, maybe 2.5 years. Um and she lost 15 pounds as well, and she got out of the relationship. Exactly, 15 pounds. Um, yeah, and I think the question too isn't so much should I stay or should I go? I think that that's the question that we get caught in. That's the
Mm,
question that's like right there at the surface, but there are questions beneath that question that are actually more important and more relevant, and some of those questions could be, where am I giving away my power? Where is my power in this? How can I reclaim some part of my power? And once we answer that question and we shift our energy, we will see what he or she or whoever you're in the relationship does with it. And that will answer the question of, should I stay or should I go? It's like, how can I find my power in this? How can I take responsibility in this? Is like the deeper layer, right? There's always something beneath that surface level conflict.
yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. There's always something beneath it. And going into those depths is where the healing really is. Have you still been hosting events and retreats?
Yeah, I'm still doing 2 to 3 retreats a year. So we just finished our Tantra Love retreat in April, which was amazing. We're going to be doing another one of those in November.
Nice. And these
And
are in
this year I'm
Austin?
Yes, we do them outside of Austin, that retreat. Um, I did have a events brand called Naked Soul Society where I was doing events monthly in Austin, but in my preparation for motherhood, I actually sold that part of my business. So someone that has been deeply involved in the container has taken it over, which was such a big transition, such an ego death for me, but it just became really clear that my energy, moving into motherhood, I think a big activation is around discernment and noticing that so much of my passion and purpose is about to go into um cultivating this new life. And so the time that I'm going to have is much less and the energy that I'm going to have is much less, and I want to use that time and energy in the places where I'm the most needed and where I can make the most impact. And at that time, that event company was actually running pretty smoothly as is, and it wasn't it wasn't sharpening my sword anymore. And like this person that could run it, it could actually really sharpen his sword, meaning he could step into more of his leadership, more of his power, and run it just as good as I was doing it. So he took that over. So this year, my focus has really been on doing more online live events and teaching in other people's containers. So I went to New York a couple months ago and was teaching for Sanctum. I'll be teaching at the end of the year in a woman's container run by Mel Wells. But that's what's feeling good is that I have like my couple of things that I'm running, my retreats, my online things, and then next year, I think we'll see how I feel after the baby. I have like it's so crazy. You become pregnant and you're like creation, like antennas are just out. It's like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I get to be really get to be really discerning and protect the peace and the ease that I've created. I very intentionally in the years when as soon as Andrew and I got together, I knew like, all right, I'm on the track for motherhood. So I get to get my life and my business in order to support that. So that looked like releasing a lot of things that weren't going to support the transition into motherhood and building things that would. And that's created so much spaciousness, ease, prosperity, all of that. But when I create spaciousness for myself, I love to fill it again. I'm like, okay, now that I have this idea, let me do something else. And so I've been very
Free time, let me
yeah,
plug that. That's me
I've
too.
I've I've learned to be very cautious about that until the baby comes and we kind of rest into our new rhythm and then I can see what really is making sense. Like I know that this initiation is already completely changed who I am on a fundamental level and the kid isn't even here yet. So I'm going to see kind of where I'm at on the other side, but for now retreats, the Tantra Love retreat or my retreats here in Austin are one thing that is like that's here to stay. And then Pleasure Priestess, which is my year-long tantric initiation for women. It's hybrid in person and online. So we do like a 2-day immersion retreat style experience and then it's also like online.
I'll have to come to one of your retreats.
The retreat in November is open for single women, like women to come solo as well as couples. And actually our organizer is based in Chicago and she's been trying to get me to come up there to do an event. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I've got all of these other travels and other events going on that I'm just like, I get to find the time for that because I love Chicago. I really do. And one of my
Now
other
you have
friends
me here,
we're
so
there. One of my other friends is spending 4 months there. She's leaving like next week. We'll be there until October. And so I'm having this baby. So I'm like, all right, when can I travel with this baby? Can I go maybe in
well,
early October? We'll see. So it's all TBD right now, but that's definitely on my radar as well to get up there just to hang out, but also potentially to like create something epic.
yeah. Well, if you're so here's what's interesting. This is something that's been bubbling up that I want to share with you. I feel like your antennas are just going to go like, yes, and your full body chills or something. But I have been like, my heart is just being tugged for this to create a retreat for mothers and daughters because
Yes.
my mom came to my retreat in Bali, this most recent retreat. Leola, when I tell you this woman cracked open, she had high blood pressure and she had knee arthritis. By the third day, she's walking around, going up the stairs with zero pain. She told me she had, and I have this on video where she revealed this to me. She's like, I haven't taken a blood pressure pills. And she's like, I feel like I have a new leg. This is insane. Like something transformed, something healed so massively for her there. And she got to witness not just what I do and understand what I do versus just seeing me on a Zoom call and being like, oh, she's a coach and that, she does retreats, but like to actually witness it and to be a part of it was so powerful and healing. And I know that all the women that are like us doing the work and we see our moms and they're maybe in marriages that they just won't get out of because divorce is wrong. My mom. And or different situations and they haven't lived their life fully or they're not expressing themselves fully and they're just in this old school way of thinking and being and it's right and it's wrong and it's moralistic thinking and all this stuff. And I'm like, if we had a retreat for mothers and daughters where they're doing the work together, how powerful, how transformative, how healing would that be? And my next one is in Costa Rica in July. And I'm like, I should make this the mother daughter one. That's the other side of this. And I feel like this will light you up too, is to have a retreat where it's maybe 3 weeks long. The first week, the men are with the male facilitator, the women are with the woman facilitator. The second week, they switch. The third week, they come together and they practice everything that they've learned to integrate. And it could be for singles, or it could be for couples or a mixture of both. But that will be like the most transformative 3 weeks of their life for their relationship or for who they are, how they're showing up in the world, in the dating world. And maybe they'll meet their partner there if it's not the couple one.
Babe.
I feel like you should
So
lead
much
that with me.
possibility.
Doesn't that just light you the fuck up? Because it's like, there's nothing like that. I feel like any idea or anything on your heart, anything that comes through that, especially if it doesn't go away, and if it just keeps coming up, it's meant for you to birth it. It's meant for you to bring it forth. Do you have something like that within you that you haven't yet created that is just like this idea or this thing that nags you that you know that you're meant to do and you haven't done yet?
Oh gosh, do I have things like that? Yeah, I do. It's funny when I first fell pregnant, I was like, I'm gonna write my book while like my next book. So I have the book Sacred Sex Ed, which is incredible. Um, and even while I was working on that book, I was getting pinged with ideas for next books. But writing a book is, it is it's quite the undertaking.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I was like, when I felt pregnant, I was like, I'm gonna use this time so intentionally. Then first trimester hit, babe. It is not for the faint of heart. This is interesting. I feel like being pregnant, going through the journey of becoming a mother is actually harder than writing my book was. Writing my book and like, building the
Whoa.
things I've built. Like I've built some pretty epic things. I've built a business, I've sold a business, I've like and I will say that this journey of motherhood is actually harder. And so I want women to know that are listening that have been mothers, like you can do anything. Like that's hard. You made it through first trimester, you birthed that baby, you like kept it alive. Like you can write a book, you can throw a retreat, you can build a prosperous, abundant business because I did all of those things before and I'm like, this is hard.
Wow.
So
There you go. So for every woman who has birthed a baby, brought a soul into this world, if you ever doubted yourself, here it is, confirmation. You can literally do anything if you have done that.
yeah. So anyways, I still have these there's a couple of book ideas. There's one that feels very top of mind right now that is really related to this relationship stuff, about being the priestess in love, being the priestess in relationship, healing the divide between the masculine and the feminine, being cultivating the gifts that not just call him into his heart but also call her into her power. I am in an evolution with my retreats too. We've done this same retreat like 10 times and it's sold out pretty much every time. It's very successful. And I'm feeling like we also did like a level 2 version, which was great, but I'm just feeling another level or something shifting with that too. So I'm really curious. I've got like a venue booked next year that I don't know what I'm doing with it. There's an evolution there with my in-person work that I'm curious about. But a lot of my focus over the past like I started my business 7 years ago. A lot of it has been focused on sacred sexuality, intimacy, and I'm moving more in this direction of relationships and working more directly with women, which I've been doing the past couple of years. But there's a curiosity as to what that's going to look like on the other side of motherhood. So at this point, I'm letting the ideas come in, I'm letting them marinate. But the main creation is a baby.
Oh my
So
gosh, amazing. So this podcast is called Redefine Reality, right? How did you redefine your reality? How did you, with the cards, the hand you were dealt, the life that was designed for you, or something that happened that completely transformed the way you show up or who you are today, how did you redefine your reality? Is there a significant moment you can think of that changed who you are and everything? Or is there something that you're thinking of that happened in your life that was the turning point that you completely changed it on, redefined it?
There were absolutely epic transformational moments, and for me, the redefining reality came more in the day to day and in the small moments, in the reprogramming of my mind and my body to calibrate to be turned on by life itself. I think that if I could distill down the magic, the essence of what I embody and teach and my medicine for the world, it would be to be turned on by life, teaching people how to be turned on by life, how to transform this energy that so much of us, this aliveness that so much of us only feel maybe in the heights of sexual pleasure or on medicine or whatever. How can you cultivate that and have that be just your baseline and how you perceive life around you? And so I actually have a practice that can be potentially supportive for people in doing this because sensuality is a nervous system skill. Receiving more life, abundance, love is a nervous system skill, and you can rewire your brain and your nervous system to receive more and to be more turned on by life. And so, the question that I invite you as a listener to try on is to start your day with the question, how can I make today more pleasurable? And then stay with that throughout the day. You start doing the dishes. How can I make this moment even more pleasurable? What if I slowed down and had more gratitude as I'm washing the dishes? What if I felt the warm water on my skin and really allowed myself to feel it? How can I make this moment more pleasurable as I'm driving to work? What colors can I see and delight my senses in, right? So it's a way of repatterning how you interact with the world around you. Um, so yeah, that's something that has deeply redefined my reality is moving from that space and that intention,
That's
inviting in more
amazing.
pleasure. Pleasure is medicine. It really
It
is. Like this
really
is scientifically proven. Like when you are in pleasure, your body is releasing oxytocin, serotonin, your amygdala, your fear response goes down, and these affect your immune system. When you're in pleasure, specifically orgasm has been tested, but when you orgasm and pleasure is medicine because it boosts your immune system, it supports your mental health, it regulates your nervous system. So, like, so many of us are relating to healing, like, oh my God, I've got to do all this work. And it's like, actually, maybe, but there's also a lot of healing that happens in your relationship to pleasure and by inviting more pleasure in as well.